Hi, and welcome back to the Two Pondering Pagans. I'm Salon. Today we'll be doing another quick tarot with the Wizard's Tarot. So this is the same deck that I used last week, and just felt the need today to pull a couple of cards and see what's going on. I've done quite a bit of shuffling already, so we're going to jump right into this one. As usual, when I do tarot on these quick tarots, we'll do it from a little bit of an educational standpoint. I'll try to share with you some of the traditional meanings, and then some of the meanings that I use for myself that I've gathered along the way. So let's see what we've got for today. And this is just going to be a standard 3-card pull, no separation. And we'll see if we maybe need to add some more. So, interesting, we've got the Four of Wands, the Queen of Swords, and the Ace of Swords. So, as I've normally or previously discussed, really, first thing I look at is kind of the combination of cards. We've got 2 swords cards. Swords are an air card for me, and they really represent those things of gnosis and knowledge and thinking and organization. So we've got a lot of that in here in this reading today. And then the Wands, the other card here, is a fire card for me. So this is our creations, our passions and positivity, are things that we make with our hands or our brains. So this could be thought processes too, but in a different manner. So new thought processes, ingenuity. Just some basic general card meanings there. So other thing I generally look at is the coloring. So you'll see we've got a lot of different color patterns in these cards. Overall, if you look at it as a progression, I'm kind of seeing a going from a warm to a cold to like a fantasy scene or something that's way out there. So let's talk a little bit about the Four of Wands, right? So fours often represent, for me, and in some traditional tarot, the structure of something, the 4 walls that hold it up. This could be an actual thing. It could be, representing the structure of a home, representing your work location. So if you're looking at changing jobs, or if you're not and you're working from home, maybe you're looking at a new office, you're changing the location. That could be a representation of the Four of Wands. You don't necessarily see that in this particular reading, though, kind of based on these other cards. So let's look at the Queen of Swords. Queen of Swords, for me, are court cards, generally represent people. So the Queen of Swords is your head person of manifestation of that thing, right? So a Queen of Swords, which is air, would be the Queen of Air. This is the highest level of attainability in the element of air and the element of knowledge. The Queen of Swords knows things. She has the information in her, and she is somebody who will only give it to you when it's necessary and only as much as necessary. Swords have 2 edges in most cases, right? So you can cut on both sides, but you can also cut things that need to be separated, right? So with the right knowledge and the right thoughts and ideas and processes, you can make decisions. The Two of Swords is generally one of my big decision-making cards. The Queen of Swords is more about the decision is already made, you know how to do it, but somebody, probably female, is going to come into your life to actually tell you to go ahead and do it. So this might be a mentor, this might be somebody, and it doesn't have to be a female, really, it's just that female energy. So really, when you look at the Queen of Swords, she's, in my tradition, in my way of doing tarot, she's talking about coming into your life in a relatively soon period, maybe already in your life, but this theme is going to come into your life of you have the information. It's representing you in the current situation. So you have the information, but you need to rely on those that are around you that can assist you or provide you the direction and the impetus to actually do what you already know. So the Queen of Swords is a really great card for me as far as just do it, And you're not going to get that out of a lot of traditional meanings for swords cards. But just remember, when you're reading swords overall, you've got that element of air, that element of of movement, of carrying things long distance also, and cutting things evenly and systematically when done properly. So the Queen really does give you some of that background information that you already know what's going on. You just need to do it. And then our Ace of Swords. So aces, generally, these are ones, right? Numerologically, they represent wholeness, unity, the togetherness, all is one, the universe is one, we are all the universe. When you add in that swords, this is that one of two things. It's that beginning of starting something based on what you know and what you feel and what you do to move forward. So remember, like I said before, swords can cut, right? That's one of the main things a sword does. It cuts, it stabs, it can kill, but it can also separate things that need to be separated. So when the Ace of Swords comes up in a reading for me, especially in this order, following a wand card or a fire card, the sword is saying to separate, to cut things so that they can grow. So we might be cutting off a shoot of a tree or plant or whatever. I obviously don't have a green thumb. I kill everything that's green around me, so I have to just love nature outside, right? But that sword cuts these things that are tied to you, things that you know, or things that are no longer of use to you. And it lets them go and lets them fall away. And what's left is a pruned bonsai tree that has the ability to grow in the right way, in the right direction. And that's what the swords do. When you couple that specifically with the ace, that means you're cutting things off in order to create something that's going to grow. We're coupling this also with your Queen of Swords right before this card, right? So Queen of Swords, this person coming into your life, but also remember representing that we have the information we already need. We just, for some reason, we're not choosing to do it. You have 2 swords and a 3-card draw. You need to go ahead and make the decision and move on. So make the decision, cut all of the flack away and leave behind the bonsai tree. Don't cut too much or it'll die. Cut, listen to the energies around you that show themselves. Mothers, sisters, female friends, work people, co-workers, I guess I should say. Somebody is going to kind of say something to you probably in the next week that's going to be like, oh, well, that's what I was waiting to hear. You know what? I'm just going to do this. But remember, too, that as an air element, swords aren't erratic. The gnosis and information they have is not this crazy all over the place helium. It's like an oxygen sustaining life. It is a carbon dioxide air that's the output of one living thing to support another. So it's really important that there's a balance there when you do that. And then we're backtracking all the way to your 4 of Wands. We're already having some good stability in this creation. So the next week is going to have that stability. You're not going to have a freak out moment. You're not going to have this incredibly crazy fly by wire, all these things going on, or things creating quickly and then disappearing. It's stable. Your house of fire is stable. And then your houses of swords are telling you to make decisions after you've cut away all those little pieces. So that's the tarot reading for this week. Very short, very sweet. I'm not really going to add any cards, but I do want to kind of talk about this particular deck, right? This is the Wizard's Tarot by Barbara Moore, and I think I'll put some pictures up here on this particular deck. I don't read reversals on this deck because the back is not reversible, and when that is the case, I generally do not read reversals because there could be subconscious thoughts of where the cards are in the positions. I just don't do that unless the back is reversible, which like I said, I'll put pictures up, but you can see this one's not. I can tell if this card is upside down. But let's talk about the 4 of Wands, right? We'll put it up on the screen, and I'm going to kind of move to the side here so there's plenty of room. The 4 of Wands, or 4 of anything really for me, again, is a structure card. It is a foundation card. It is a stability card where it comes from. And then you layer on the suit, which is Wands, right? Wands for me are fire. In some traditions, they're air. You do what's right and feels good for you. But think of a wand when you're working with tarot. Think of the symbols that it represents for the things that are in it. What do you see that comes in 4s? 4 walls, 4 corners. They're stable. You see in a wand an item, that has creativity and passion in it, but it's used to direct things, right? Wands generally, and again, speaking from just my own practice, but wands are tools that we use, don't need, by the way. They're cool and fun to have. I enjoy them. I have quite a few. I have 3 or 4. But they're designed to help you direct energy. And you can do that with your hand. You don't need the wand to do that, but it's a great tool. So wands will make you think of and represent things that are straight, things that are direct, things that point. And when you point at something, what are you doing? You are pointing it out. You are directing attention to it. So think of wands like that in many cases. Being that they are in the house of fire, that also leads to that creativity part. So all of these things play into the tarot as you read them. In this particular card, you would want to kind of pull from each of those different meanings, think about it, and then put it in practice as to whatever connection you feel with whoever you're reading. For me, when I do the weekly tarot, I generally just meditate, and I'm channeling in just, the universal energy, the stillness of the universe around me. So that helps me in a general reading when there's no particular person. It also helps me to practice. If I'm working with a specific person, whether it's in person or long distance, I'd like to see a picture of their face. I'd like to do a video chat so I can see them. It helps direct my brain. And it tells my brain that this is the connection to the person I'm making. It's almost like a GPS location that my brain can hold on to, so that when I'm doing spiritual work, I can feel that connection to the universal energy. Because if the way I believe is correct, which it may not be, who knows, but the way I believe is that we are all connected through the universal energy. So somewhere in there is a string, and whether or not I can actually identify it or describe it to you, I think it's there. So we use that energy and that connection to kind of read. That's going to shape the meaning of the card. So in today's reading, it may mean something a little bit different than in some other one. But having the basic ideas of numerology, the elements, and then just the imagery is going to be important. So also, with the 4 of Wands, in this particular picture, you do see 4 wands. You see what appears to be a spiritual person in a portal mirror type image. And she is pointing a wand. She's directing energy towards the other person in this card. If there were only 3 wands in this card around this individual, would there be a portal there? Or would that be maybe the frame of the mirror? Probably not, right? Mirrors have 4 sides. Maybe have more, and maybe there are triangular mirrors, I'm sure. But the representation here is of having 4 complete corners and 4 complete edges. You also see in this particular card, you see the desk behind, very messy. Fire energy tends to be a little messy, right? It burns you, but it also creates ash, which grows things and is great fertilizer. And then you see this mess of books. So the energy and information is there, but maybe it's hard to get to. And she's directing this young man that's in the picture. So for the next 2, both are swords. So again, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but we'll talk a little bit about swords. Swords are the house of air for me. And again, swords and wands are actually reversed in some traditions, just FYI. So again, whatever works for you is sensical. But the swords are, first and foremost, they are forged. They are of strength. And to me, the first thing I always think about with swords in a reading is cutting. In a million different ways, though. It's not just cutting, ouch, that hurts. It's cutting... cutting a toenail, right? Toenails get too long, fingernails, probably a better picture for you, right? You need to clip those so that you can grasp things appropriately. That's, fingernails provide that pressure on your fingers so that your grasp is better. So you have to cut fingernails, right? So things need to be cut in order for them to function. That's one way a sword or an item can cut. You need to cut food. You need to cut things out of your life. You need to take or cut your losses and run, right? So cutting isn't just physical slicing. It can be. But if you think about that imagery, it might help you understand the sword suit a little bit better. For me, swords are knowledge, decisions. Decision being, you cut things into a yes or a no. Sometimes when you cut something, the cut is sharp and you have 2 nice even pieces, or you have 2 really ragged pieces. That can represent knowledge of something that's going to help you or knowledge of something that's going to hurt you. Rumors are represented by a raggedly cut item. Knowledge and improvement is represented by an evenly cut item. When you are reading a book or you're working through something, you want things cut and even, the pages are even. Just a couple of things and images to try to get your idea and your brain working around that. Now, in the house of air, the element goes along with that for me, and that is really talking through the energy of knowledge and the energy of finding, exploring long distances. Whenever swords are present in a reading, I generally think things are far away, whether it's time or physical, and it really speaks to that ability for things to travel. Through the air, we travel radio waves. We have different frequencies, cell phone signals, all those things travel long distances through the air. Our vision, we're looking through air to see things that are off in the distance. So the air, in a sense, carries things from and to us. It represents a space that we cannot see, but we know is there. So you have to have that knowledge in order to represent and to think of through swords. And then the last thing I'm just going to mention with the swords is the queen, and kind of my theory on how court cards represent generally people, and how in the reading I will talk about two different sides of that. I talk about how it represents the energy around you, but also the person that's going to come into your life. So it's twofold. When the Queen of Swords shows up, or the Queen of Wands shows up, or the Queen of Pentacles or coins, whichever one you call it, or cups, to me, queens are the highest epitome of every energy. A lot of people are going to say kings are the highest epitome, or the embodiment of an element is the ace, which I do believe and do feel in my readings that aces embody the whole raw material of that element. I don't agree necessarily or feel in my readings about the king and queen. You may feel differently. That's fine. Perfectly fine. But when I picture and work with the queen, I'm getting a full-rounded experience of that element. I'm getting understanding, I'm getting guidance, I'm getting knowledge, I'm getting feelings. It's all pulling together with the queen of that element. With the king, I'm getting do this, do that, make this, find this, direct this. So that energy is a little bit different. One is not better than the other, and one is not above or below the other. It is a different energy, and that's really important to me when I'm reading tarot. So hopefully a couple of those things will kind of help you out in understanding if you're interested in learning tarot. If you have been practicing tarot for many, many years, I absolutely love to hear people's different interpretations of the same cards. Feel free to make a comment below and tell me about your feelings. The only thing I ask is if somebody else does it differently than you and you don't like it, I have no problem with calling it out or saying it if you disagree, but just say it like that. You know what? I disagree. It doesn't mean that for me. Move on. Share your story, but don't put somebody else in your story. So with that, I appreciate it. Glad you stopped by. Feel free to comment below, subscribe if you want, and hope to see you again on the next one. Bye.